All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the November 20th AI Conformance Working Group meeting. I'm Janet, and just to remind everyone about the code of conduct, and then this meeting is going to be recorded. So if you have something that you don't want to be recorded, just don't say it. Um, we have a few items on the agenda today. And the first one is about KubeCon updates. So we have announced the Kubernetes AI Conformance program at the keynote stage at KubeCon. And then we also had a on conference discussion at KubeCon on Maintainer Summit. We have met a few new members from the community, and I'll give folks a few minutes on if they want to say something. For example, Hippie Hacker, do you want to say something about on KubeCon or what you plan to contribute to the working group?
Sure, it was good to see everybody at KubeCon. I stepped away for a bit, but I thought I'd show up and see how things are going and just kind of listen in for a bit to get my footings again.
Sounds good. And does anyone else want to chime in and say hello to the folks?
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm just here to learn, but nice to meet y'all.
Cool.
Hey,
Nice to meet
I'm Carl, same as Nick, here to learn and hopefully provide value in return.
Hi,
And
I'm Archana. I'm working with LinkedIn Kubernetes group. I'm also here to learn about the program and provide some value and contribution.
I'm Mickey. I'm a PM at Oracle, and I did our conformance assessment, so I'm here to try to participate more actively in the community.
Yeah, this is Aditya, and I have been part of CNCF Ambassador program and working as SRE at Forrester. I saw like the first time I met at KubeCon this time, so yeah, I thought to be part of it and contribute the way I can.
Cool.
Actually, I have a
Thanks, everyone.
yeah,
Oh,
hi everyone. I have a quick question actually. So, first of all, again, great KubeCon. It was exciting to announce the work we started like over the last 6 months. I kind of like curious because I mean I think overall was a great success for the program and for engagement within the community. And I think especially on the first day of a maintainer track, like this kind of live discussion was interesting. I kind of like curious, what kind of community feedback, maybe Janik, you can share or others can share, like we gather from broader cloud native folks, or maybe any questions, interesting questions they ask, or some discussions we missed.
yeah, sure. So I heard a few feedback from the end users. They are pretty excited about this program. They hope that on Kubernetes AI Conformance is going to make deploying AI workloads easier on Kubernetes. And I also spoke with some folks from NVIDIA, and then we're hoping to get some on contributions or guidance or support on defining some of the standard. For example, the accelerator metrics, can we standardize on that? And the DRA attributes, maybe we can standardize on that so that we make the user experience consistent so that folks and users don't need to figure out like different settings for different types. And Mario has a hand.
Yeah, so general feedback that I heard was positive, and I think also, like you said, Andre, the it was a success. There were a lot of people who came to various places and said like, "Hey, great program," everyone was basically puzzled that we pulled it off in such short time. Me as well. But also there were questions which regarding or the concerns which I share, that we might have some parts which will be hard to automatically test or might not be possible for automatic testing, because just of the given nature of the features. And I think this is something that we should discuss in the future, how to move forward or what are the next steps there, because currently I think there's I would think there's still is a lot of potential for discussion and to reach an agreement there.
Are there any kind of objections or recommendation for the masks we established initially?
None that I heard of, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that either.
The only thing that I heard was I know that obviously there was support for 1.33 and 1.34. The fact that DRA was beta off by default in 1.33, I think a lot of people were kind of curious why that would have been included, because I know for a lot of providers they don't have the beta off by default features turned on the API server. But obviously that was covered in 1.34 when it was on by default.
Yeah, but we basically we had DRA only as a should. So every vendor who don't support beta endpoints just could ignore the first DRA point for 1.33.
DRA was definitely a must. At least one of the parts of it was using DRA for
No, the
isolation.
DRA was especially moved to a should, and you can look it up in the spec. The DRA requirement is a should for 1.33, and it's a must for 1.34.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Any sharing from KubeCon or anyone want to say anything about that? If not, we can go forward with the next topic, next update, which is about we have defined the process for how we propose the new requirements or update the existing one or graduate from should to must. Basically, this is going to be following a similar process and timeline as the Kubernetes caps that most folks are probably already familiar with. Basically, I think folks can just read it yourself. I'm going to post a link in the meeting chat as well, so that you can read it. And we also updated the issue template so that when you want to propose a new requirements, the issue template is going to include all the information you need to provide. And we have also created several PRs for the should requirements that we discussed and agreed to take in earlier, so that these would target the 135 release. I'm going to also share the link so that you can all see. And I'm going to share in the meeting notes. So basically, this is very similar to a cap that you have different status and stage for should or must, target, milestone, and then a brief description of the requirements, and then motivation behind the requirement. And then the most important bit is about how we might test it. And then for the must, we're going to have a more detailed automated test plan. And I have shared the link in the agenda, so folks who are interested can go take a look at this. Does anyone have any questions about it? All right. Then let's move on to the open topics. The first topic is about the 135 requirements. This is about the change to the existing master requirements that we discussed last time when we before KubeCon. So to remind folks about what we discussed, let me bring up the doc. All right. So this is we have one for GAN scheduling. And then I think last time we were discussing whether we want to change it to so that the platform needs to provide some support or a managed solution for this. And then the other one is similar for the accelerator metrics. Should the platform provide managed support? Let me scroll it to the end. So basically for this one, at the end, we added the platform may provide a managed solution, but it's not required. And then we were discussing whether we should remove this so that this is not a optional condition. Yeah, Jack, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I wanted to speak to the gang scheduling question because SIG scheduling and other SIGs are heavily invested in prioritizing standardizing gang scheduling in the Kubernetes APIs. That suggests to me that we have more incentive not to require managed providers to pick sort of one blessed gang scheduling solution, whether that be Q or something else, in the meantime, and to encourage instead the effort towards standardizing a definition of gang scheduling in Kubernetes itself. One can imagine that managed providers would be sort of torn between how do I prepare my environment to receive these new gang scheduling requirements versus should I go all in on a particular existing solution? And to clarify, the efforts to standardize gang scheduling in Kubernetes are not meant to discourage innovation or other projects around the ecosystem and not meant to replace that. We're trying to incorporate all of the innovation that exists in that ecosystem and figure out what is a good candidate for standardizing in the APIs. But just wanted to suggest that if we, in the meantime, before there is a standard gang solution, a standard gang scheduling solution in the Kubernetes APIs, we'd be asking providers to pick one, while at the same time also telling them, by the way, just around the corner, you're going to be asked to support a brand new set of scheduling APIs to support gang scheduling. So we're going to be asking them to do two kind of at the same time.
So for this exact requirement, we are not picking any one of the solution. This is more about must allow installation of any of the scheduling solution. We have a
Yeah,
separate.
that seems fine. I was speaking to the idea that we might evolve that to suggest that the managed providers we would remove the language so that the must becomes that a managed provider must provide a managed gang scheduling solution. So if that's not up for consideration, then I'll go ahead and stand down.
Yeah. And then I remember, we have a few hands. Mario.
I mean, Jake, I agree, especially on the part. I agree with you that I think the vendors will focus on both, because when we have the gang scheduling implemented in the Kubernetes API, it will automatically fall into Kubernetes conformance, which means they need to apply. They need to be conformant with this anyway, because Kubernetes conformance is a baseline for Kubernetes AI conformance. So basically, we just move the requirement into the Kubernetes conformance there. So we already have it implicit in Kubernetes conformance as a requirement. So I would still keep you should have another gang scheduling option. I mean, this depends on how gang scheduling will look like in Kubernetes when it's finished, right? If it fulfills
my
all
key
the
point is just the managed part of it is for
uh,
providers. If we require them to pick at least one managed gang scheduling solution for their customers, that means they have to make a choice in the ecosystem, and so to a certain extent,
yeah.
prefer one versus others. And while doing that, while also asking them at the same time to prepare for a standard gang scheduling API, seems to be a lot. So it's just the managed part.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Yes.
They should make something available. Sorry, Andre, you had your hand
Yeah,
up.
I think initially my idea here was to not say provide a managed solution by verify that you can schedule the group of pods. You basically um, all or nothing scheduling, right? Without kind of saying here to provide a managed solution. Secondly, I want to say so the workload API is already in 135, and workload API right now is an alpha, and workload API supports gang scheduling, which means eventually everyone probably will migrate to this new entity. But I guess like we're still discussing who will be responsible to create this workload API. For example, like we had a long discussion whether this should be part of Q job controller framework, or it should be part of, this external controllers like train job, job set, leader worker set, etc. Which is tricky, right? Because like for example, it was an open cap to introduce the workload API creation for job API for job control, which is in Kubernetes core, but this we actually didn't move forward with this cap right now. But I guess like the question for us here, we should answer whether when workload API will be GA, whether we should use this as as the main API to perform gang scheduling, and or will this be part of Kubernetes conformance, right? I think this was what Mario was mentioned, right? Yeah, so this is maybe something for us to consider, but we can adjust to if you have concerns with managed service, I think. Here, managed solution.
So I think for this requirement, we're not going to make changes to, at least for 135.
Yeah, is the main concern of solution word here?
I think it's not a concern. It's more about how can we provide a better user experience. If I think the original idea is that if we provide a managed solution, then users can get some game scheduling solution out of the box without having to figure out which solution they choose. That's the motivation behind the proposal to make the change. But I think everyone made a good point today that this might be too early to make it mandatory for providing a managed solution for game scheduling. And Mickey?
Yeah, I actually wanted to jump back to the accelerator metrics one, so I'm happy to finish the scheduling or game scheduling discussion first.
Yeah.
So again, like, will we be able to kind of implement our tests in a way that's it's agnostic to the solution?
I was thinking that might be challenging for the gang scheduling one if everyone is choosing a different gang scheduling solution.
No, but why it might be challenging?
Oh, I mean, fair enough. I guess just the way that you'd submit the job might be different, but I don't know all of them competitively well enough.
Yeah, but we can still implement the test in a way that it just verify that you have a way to schedule all or nothing capability, right? Without, checking if you're using Q API or if you're using Volcano, pod groups, etc. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm with Mickey. Having an automated test that can accommodate all those would be tricky. Go ahead, Hippie.
We did some Envoy conformance program for their ecosystem, and one of the things we did was write our acceptance criteria in a language called Gherkin, and then we implemented wrappers for each one if we needed something specific for how we deployed that. And I think what we're at a top level, for conformance, we're looking for, can we do gang scheduling? And as we're evolving that, we can still say you must do gang scheduling, but we have a small wrapper from our testing framework that lets them provide a way of implementing that. And we can dig into the technical parts of it, but I think it's more important to talk about it at a high level. Yes, I think it's a great idea to automatically test it, and with the submission, it should include basically the top level mapping of how do we do it with the information provided from the top level requirements for the test and verifying that it actually did the gang scheduling.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Would you add more information in the meeting notes about the framework you're talking about?
Sure, I can do that.
Thanks.
Is it all right to jump back to the accelerator metrics part?
Yes.
So the only comment that I had was just regarding offering a Prometheus compatible metrics platform from the provider. Anecdotally, a lot of my customers are rolling their own Prometheus stacks or their own OTel solutions to capture these metrics. So while I think it makes sense for providers, obviously, to have a Prometheus compatible solution for monitoring, I don't personally think of it as like a customer requirement.
Let me paste the exact words. Um, so you are saying that
Basically, I'm totally on board with absolutely everything except for the last sentence. Obviously, I know that. Just sorry, I had thought that I'd heard we were talking about removing that last part, but this is not required for conformance. But if we're planning to leave the text as is, I'm happy and support it.
So the last part, you are talking about this part or
No, literally just the last sentence. The platform may
okay.
provide a managed solution.
Yeah. I think the discussion we had last time is about whether we remove this sentence. And so to recap, what's your proposal? Are you proposing that we keep it or make some changes to the last sentence?
I would be fine either removing the last sentence or keeping it as it is. I was just saying that what I didn't want to do is say that the platform must provide a managed solution.
I see. What do others think?
But it says it may provide, but it's not required, right?
Yeah, it's not required.
Sorry, is this for a should or a must?
It's a must. It's a must right now.
It seems kind of contradictory having a must that it's optional or that has like a part that's optional. I mean, I'll go with removing this part because as Mickey said, it's like it's useful, but I don't think it's like dependent on the platform. It could be like enabled by the user if I don't know.
Justin?
If I recall correctly, we were concerned that managed solutions might block installation. We wanted to put this in basically to make clear that we are allowing managed solutions. The intent, and that it is not required. The intent is to like avoid ambiguity. So if we are introducing more ambiguity, we should revisit it. But I think without that sentence, it is unclear whether, for example, if Justin's managed Kubernetes does not allow, like ships managed Prometheus and does not allow you to install a metric solution, whether Justin's managed solution is conformant.
If that's the goal, it might be worth adding like a few extra words to that sentence, just stating that explicitly.
I think we're very open to. I think we'd love to. Like, what would you propose, right?
I mean, yeah, the platform may provide a managed solution provided that it's compatible with all of the aforementioned metrics.
What if we flip it and instead of using the may, we can say, the assertive way, like manual installed and managed solutions are acceptable. Between parentheses, as long as they, comply with the requirement.
I like that.
So basically move the last sentence to here. Must allow for the installation or provide a managed solution. Something like that.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. And anything else anyone want to discuss regarding these two requirements or anything that folks think that we need to update for the 135 from the existing must requirements? And you can also do it offline in the repo later, following the process that I mentioned earlier. If not, we can move on to the next topic. Is about automated tests. So Hippie Hacker just shared some experience of the test framework And I think you worked on the original vanilla Kubernetes conformance, so you can provide us share some experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The working on the original Kubernetes conformance, trying to get a shared agreement on what we were going to include was quite a difficult process, as many of the people here who are present can remember. And trying to submit PRs without going through and getting the group approval was one of the things we struggled to do. So we ended up creating a lot of uh, issues that we would review during these calls about what kind of changes we wanted to see in the conformance program before starting to work on a PR. So an issue and PR flow. For us, as we worked on that, we brought that approach over to XDS Conformance. And with that program, instead of doing a issue-based approach to defining what the API group was looking for from XDS, that we ended up creating a high-level description in Gherkin. And Gherkin is a test definition framework for defining high-level acceptance tests. And we went through and implemented most of those pieces across the board in the Golang tests, but there was a adapter that we required the XDS components to submit to bridge that gap. My suggestion is that as we're talking around game scheduling and these other components that might have different implementations until we standardize on it, to whatever type of test framework we go with, be able to define it without defining code, so that when we kind of do that at this document, but tie that definition directly into the test framework somehow, so we can have checkboxes. Did they do all of the things? That's kind of the open question I'd like to put forward. Is would we like to, or if people have thoughts on tying together the definitions we create here as a group to the type of tests and implementations that we do when we run for AI conformance against an existing cluster.
So we're going to rename the working group repo on. I'm talking about this one. We're going to rename it to be AI Conformance so that it's clear that it's a sub-project under SIG architecture where we can put code, we can host code in the repo. So I think potentially you can maybe start adding some code or framework into the repo for how we might want to do the test. Would that work?
But before we add code, I'd like to just talk about it for a minute. Is it a good idea at all? I think that's getting the shared agreement of what do we think is a good idea before we write it was what we learned from doing conformance the first time. If we start submitting code without understanding what it is we want to do, and we're doing a good job at these higher levels, but I'd like us to at least think about how we tie what we're defining here into the conformance tests themselves, so that we have this checkbox system. With the current conformance test for Kubernetes, we have some automation that we wrote to verify that the test included everything. And it got to be pretty complex around making sure that all the different components were there. We actually created a similar thing for the end results to verify that in Gherkin that everything was correctly submitted, and if not, to comment back on the submission and say, here's what you were missing in your submission for Kubernetes conformance. And it would be useful to use what we learned from the Kubernetes conformance and the XDS conformance to help with the submission process and with the definition. And rather than kind of bolting it on afterwards, think about it up front so that it's well tied into our approach.
Yeah, and so in the new process where we follow the CAP process for creating proposals, we are going to backfill all the existing must requirements with information in the proposal, and also add a section for the automated test, how we want to run the test. So that information could be included there for each requirement. Mario?
That's excellent.
I would also basically, when we go through all of the requirements, define if this is something that can be tested or cannot be tested. So basically define what is be able to have automatic tests and what is not able to have automatic tests because of complexity.
Question about the Gherkin implementation. I'm a big fan of it. I used it a lot. So like if this was the proposed way to go about it, would essentially like a template be provided? So you have like the spec'd out English, this is what we expect. And then you pretty much are given another file where it's like, hey, implement the given when and go about it your way. Is that pretty much it?
I would love to have a couple of vendors, which is why the next question is hardware vendors or participation. If we can find a few vendors who want to go through and help to implement some initial templates so that we can tie together across them, how do we test these at a not cloud particular level, but how do we access these to make sure we have the possibility for testing, and then change how we test it based on how they're deployed at different cloud providers. And that's where we need a few base implementations, possibly with that Gherkin tied in for executing the test, making sure everything's good, and then possibly later on using those same exact tests to verify the submissions and that's where we have two different areas of existing work was the test harness here, which has the Gherkin features. They're usually just dot feature files, and we have another one for the CNCF bot for submissions to existing Kubernetes conformance that says here's everything that must be implemented in the actual PR that comes in. If we look at both of those approaches and kind of tie them into our definition, because I think we have a JSON one now, maybe. It would be nice if we just had features in a folder that said, here are the things, and they can say must, but that lets us all review this top level definition at an executive level and then tie together implementations for these tests, hopefully involving vendor and hardware vendor and cloud level implementations.
Yeah, I think for the hardware vendor, I spoke with both NVIDIA folks and AMD folk during KubeCon. So I can reach out to them again to see if they can help contribute.
Are we similarly making an effort to reach out to more end users in this space as well?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I just need to figure out where are the end users. I know that Nick is an end user. Mario?
We highlighted this at the keynote, and this was also basically put into every communication. It went out everywhere that anyone is welcome, especially input from end users. But feel free to do comms by yourself as well, or through your company.
Right, and that's the end of the proposed topics. Does anyone have anything else they want to discuss? If not, then we can end the meeting a little bit earlier. Give everyone 15 minutes back, and please feel free to take a look at the repository that I shared with you earlier and the proposal. We're going to add more, especially for the existing MOS requirements with the information about how we do tests. Great. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Janet.
Take care.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
Thanks. Have a nice evening, day, whatever. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Justin. Good to see you, old friend. It's been a season. I think he may have dropped.
Yeah, Justin froze.
Just stuck. Janet, I'd love to hear more or even be involved in some of the conversations with AMD or NVIDIA or any of those vendors that we're trying to reach out for. Because I'm also trying to find some sponsors